Your team is not disengaged, they're responding. And there's a difference. And that difference changes everything. Hi, I'm Tami Imlay. I'm an executive leadership strategist and advisor, and this is a Leader's Purpose podcast. You're sitting in a seat where the decisions you make are visible, impactful, and felt by everyone around you. You carry the weight of the organization, and everyone around you knows it, which means everyone pulls on you constantly. And most of what you've been handed about leadership isn't wrong, it's just backwards. I spent years studying what drives performance at the highest level, and every week I bring you what I've learned, the patterns, the reframes, and the things that no one's saying out loud, so you can stop managing your leadership and start trusting it. You already have what it takes. This is where you get to remember that. So let's do this. But before we get into today's episode, which we're talking about myth number 4, I wanted to talk to you about a live workshop I'm doing on April 20th. It will be held on Zoom. And this is not a webinar where you sit and you listen to me speak for an hour. No one really wants that. This is where we're going to talk about 3 things that you are doing to train your team to need you for everything. Then we're going to discuss what to do about it. So bring your questions and your examples, and let's find answers for you right away. Because I'm going to take questions and I want to get the heart of what you are seeing, I'm limiting the room to 11. So all you need to do to get your seat is email me at Tami@TamiMarieCoaching.com. Or if we're connected on LinkedIn, just shoot me a DM. It's free. And again, 11 people, but April 29th, 11:30 Central Time. And more about that later. All right, let's get back into the series, our leadership myths. So we are week 4. And if you've been with me since the beginning, you know what we're doing here. We're not tearing down leadership. We are getting honest about the things that were handed to us that are not quite right, or that maybe were right a few years ago, but they're not right now. So today is myth 4, and this one I see constantly. So here is the myth. Engagement is an employee motivation problem. If your team is quiet, disengaged, doing the minimum, or flooding your inbox with questions, they should be able to answer themselves. The instinct is to look at them, run a survey, start a culture initiative, hire a speaker, send them to a training. But here's what I want you to consider instead. They're not broken, they are responding. The meeting energy is flat. You're talking, people are nodding, nothing moves, right? We've all been through meetings like this. And you've done everything right. Your strategy is solid and the expectations are clear. And still, the room is quiet in a way that does not feel like engagement. So let's say you have requests that keep routing back to you that should not require you. The decisions were made, questions were answered, you're in the loop on things that stopped needing you 2 levels ago. Or even you notice that standouts are still performing and the rest of the team is just putting in time. They haven't checked out exactly, just they're not invested. There's a difference between someone who is present and someone who is engaged, and you're seeing that gap. So here's what I want you to see, because this is not just a you problem. This is actually something that the recent Gallup State of the Global Workplace report talked about. So they reported that 20% of employees globally are engaged. 20%. Are engaged. I was shocked when I read this, because I want you to sit with that for a second. That means 8 out of 10 people are showing up, but not fully in it. Now, here is the question I want you to hold. Are we really saying that 80% of the global workforce suddenly lost their drive? That they're not motivated, that they don't want to be there? Like, that's not a motivation problem, that's a signal problem. And that stat is a setup. So now here's a story that I want you to listen to that proves it. So I worked with a team that looked disengaged on paper. And that's why the leader hired me. That's why the CEO hired me, is because low input, quiet meetings, a leader who was genuinely confused, because these were the same people who had started the year really strong. What I noticed was that they still cared. They were not checked out, they were braced, waiting for something that they didn't have enough information to prepare for. When we got the right information in the room, the kind that had been sitting on the executive level but never made it down to them. They alluded to it, the executives have circled it enough, but they didn't realize that the information wasn't passed down properly. So when it was, something shifted, not slowly, it happened all at once. I watched this room full of people exhale. They didn't need to be motivated. They needed something to anchor to again. The signal changed. They responded that fast. So that's not a disengagement story. That is a withheld energy story. And the data backs this up. So the engagement industry, that's what we'll call this, has responded to this data with software, culture, consultants, initiatives, videos for like motivational videos, and none of that's wrong, but it starts in the wrong place. When you start with the team, you skip the variable that moves everything else. And the cost of starting the wrong place is not abstract. Low engagement costs the global economy $10 trillion annually. And of course, it's going to be a high number because 80% are showing disengagement. And that's not a rounding error. That's a leadership and execution problem that's been misidentified. Can you believe that? $10 trillion annually. But then you're like, well, of course, Tami, there's only 20% of the workforce that like shows up to work fully. But here's what I want you to notice about that number. That's not a people number. It's a performance number. And the question is not why employees are not motivated. The question that I want you to ask is, what signal are they responding to? Engagement is not a measure of how motivated someone feels. Motivation comes and goes, and it's not even your job as a leader to motivate your people. That is an internal thing. But it is a measure of how connected they feel to their work, to their team, and how they are being led. That's the definition. That's what I want you to stick with when you are looking at engagement, is how connected are your people? How connected do they feel to their work, to their team, and how they're being led? Because that is what's being measured. And that's where the myth breaks down. Gallup names 5 things that drives engagement. And I thought it was really important to add this here because I want you to see that it's a lot easier than you think. And when you hear them, you will notice that not a single one of them is motivation. So the biggest one is clarity. I've talked about it a lot. It's a buzzword all over LinkedIn. It's a buzzword everywhere. It's like, we need more clarity. But what does that really mean? They want to know what is expected. When that is missing, they don't disengage, they hesitate. So they become timid. They don't know which direction to go. So tell them what is expected. They want the feeling that they matter, their voice, their contribution. When that is missing, they do not stop caring, they stop offering. So here, if there's not clarity, they hesitate. And now if they don't feel like they matter, they stop offering. And when you start to show them that they matter, their voice matters. And again, this doesn't mean that we need to sit in a circle and kumbaya and hear everyone's opinion on everything. But know their strengths, know how they're wired. And you can help them see how what they have to offer completely aligns with the mission. Next is being seen and recognized. Effort noticed. This is going above baseline. When that is missing, they do not disengage. They pull back to the minimum. So if they don't have clarity and if they don't feel like they matter and they're not being seen and recognized, they hesitate, they stop offering, and then they're going to pull back to the minimum, which is what the research is showing. And I worked with a team. They're not going to mind me calling them out, but I worked with a team, the Southern Hills Marriott at Southern Hills, Tulsa. And that's one of the things that they really do work on. They find ways to, at every level, they try to see and recognize their employees. And their numbers are showing that. Their people are staying in that job because of that. They feel engaged because they are seen and recognized. And it really is as simple as showing up at a midnight shift and just saying, hey, we see you, you're doing a great job. It doesn't have to be something huge, but it matters being seen and recognized, and the research is backing that up. The next one is growth and progress. They want to move forward and not just maintain. people naturally, leaders and these leaders that you want to cultivate, they want to grow. And so if they feel stagnant, if they feel like there's no place for them to go, they start looking elsewhere. When it's missing, when they're not able to see how they can excel, how they can grow, even if they don't get a new promotion or move up a level, but still in their, how can they improve in the position they're in? Then they're going to start looking somewhere else. And again, the studies show this, that people want to, and human nature in general. We like comfort, but that's not our friend. We want to be stretched. And the employees that you want, the team members you want, if you're not seeing them with a desire to grow and progress, then there might be another issue there. If they just want to stay where they are, and sometimes that's a great fit for your organization, but for your leaders, you want to see and cultivate that growth mindset. And so then the next one that is listed in the Gallup research is that connection, belonging, and trust. They don't want to feel replaceable. When it's missing, they don't disengage, they detach emotionally. In this environment, in this atmosphere, and in this onset of AI, there are so many people who fear their job is going to be taken over by AI. Now, I do believe that AI is going to take some of these tasks away. And I've mentioned it before, I do use AI in some of my work. But the thing is that humanness has to come from me. The humanness in the role has to come from your people, the creativity, the empathy, the growth. It has to come from your people. And so you've got to show that you connect with them and belong, and then learn to, they need to be trusted, because when they feel replaceable, they're going to detach emotionally. And so you can see, not one of these things are giving them a inspirational speech or motivating them. It's really, they want to know what's expected because they want to do a good job. They want their job they want to feel like their job matters, their voice, their contribution. They want to be seen for what they're doing, and they want to be recognized. Now, not everyone wants to be recognized publicly. Know the difference. Sometimes people will just want, just swing by the office and say, hey, I saw your effort. Thank you. They want to grow and progress, whether it means getting a promotion or at least encouraging them to invest in themselves. And then they also want the connection, belonging, and trust. And when you have those things, then your people are going to be engaged. People don't stop caring. They stop investing energy in environments where what they need is not present. There we go. What looks like disengagement is actually withheld energy. And that right there is the difference. Disengagement is not a team problem that lands on a leader's desk. It is a leadership signal the team is responding to. And until the signal changes, the response won't either. So the leaders that I work with are not failing at motivation. They really aren't. The leaders that I work with, when I talk to them and when they talk to their teams, they really love what they do and they love their teams. But they're leading at a level where the signal they're sending has outgrown the pattern that they have not yet examined. That's not a character flaw. That's a diagnostic opportunity. So what becomes possible when that pattern shifts? This is where I want to take you here, okay? Because one thing to see is all of these, when we're experiencing this, you're not stuck there. That's what I love about doing this work. It's not about putting you in a box and saying, this is all it's going to be. It's really about calling you forward and taking you out of the box and seeing what becomes possible when we shift some of these small patterns. So picture the version of you who walks into the room and energy shifts with you. Not because you demanded it, but because you stopped carrying something that was changing the signal. Your team not wanting to be motivated, they are waiting. They're waiting for the signal to change. Sorry, I lost my place for a moment. So your team is not waiting to be motivated. They're waiting for the signal to change. The leader who stops managing energy and starts leading from her own center, from her own gut, from his own understanding. And whether it's, I say gut, but like we talked about last week, and again, we say gut, but it could be from your action, your core, your body, your heart, your mind, right? The leader who stops managing team and starts leading from their own center gets something back that has been burning, that had to find. The effort ratio changes. What used to take 3 conversations now takes 1. What used to require a follow-up just happens. You do not need to fix your team. You do not need to inspire them harder or send them to more motivational videos. You get to know what signal you're sending and whether it is the one you mean to send or not. That is the version of leadership you already have within you. This is where you just get to see it clearly. You get to identify it and you get to act on it. And this is where leadership changes and it stops being effortful and becomes effortless. This is when you get to trust your gut. This is when you get to trust your leadership and you get to lead versus just managing the energy in the room. All right. I hope you enjoyed this episode. But before you go, I want to say something directly. If something in today's episode landed, it's not because something's wrong with you. It is not because you are missing a skill or behind where you should be. It's because you're carrying things that were right for a previous level that you haven't set down yet. The instructions haven't been updated. Your order is off and no one told you to check. What I do in this diagnostic call, it's not a sales conversation. It's not a pitch. It's just you and me. I set aside 45 minutes figuring out what's running your leadership right now and what gets to shift. Most leaders walk away this call seeing something that they've been looking for years, and they finally see it from the right angle. Like I mentioned, it's not that everything you know about leadership is wrong. It's a lot of times it's just backwards. So if you're ready for that, the link is in the show notes. Let's figure out what's wrong, what's in the wrong order, and I will see you next week. Bye for now.